Good morning. Death is something that we don't like to talk about. Right? Anytime. But yet death is something that is unavoidable. It comes to people of any age, young and old. When I was 15 years old, a classmate of mine, or actually a schoolmate of mine, same age as me, had a high fever, and 2 weeks later, he died. It's young and old, death is unavoidable. Death comes to the rich and the poor. Death comes to so-called good people and bad people. And facing death can be a very difficult thing, isn't it? For those who are near death, either by sickness or old age, probably they face a lot of uncertainties. Or for those who are still alive and losing their loved ones, this whole sense of lostness is very hard to handle. This whole sense of separation. How to grieve and how to grieve well. Well, today's passage showed us a grieving family and will teach us how to grieve well, actually. Let's take a look at the passage in detail, verse 1 to 16, when death knocks at our door. Well, Jesus has a few friends, and they are very good friends with him, these three siblings, and he loved them a lot. Verse 3 tells us that Jesus loved this guy. And verse 5, again, John's comment says that Jesus loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. He loved this group of friends. And one of them, the brother, was very sick, Lazarus. And now the sisters were panicking. Mary and Martha quickly sent a messenger to Jesus where he was to inform him that Lazarus is very sick and probably to the point of death. Well, they will probably hope that Jesus will come or Jesus will do something that will heal him quickly to prevent him from dying. Well, this is not new. We know that Jesus healed someone like that before in the end of chapter 4 when the noble official's son was sick to the point of death and Jesus just said, go and the son will be well. Remember that incident in chapter 4? Oh, this is not new. But so this is an urgent matter that he was near death. Lazarus was near death. But verse 4, Jesus stated the purpose of this tragedy. Jesus stated it. He said, this sickness is for God's glory and that He, the Son of Man, will be glorified. What is Jesus saying? He's simply saying that so that God will be made famous. God and Him and God's plan to save people will be properly, clearly made known or understood by people. That's what he's saying. It's something very important. It's God's salvation plan. It's so important and so crucial. Jesus says this is for this particular purpose. How important it is? How crucial is this? It's so important that Jesus would even risk his friendship with them. It's so important that Jesus would rather himself be possibly put in a bad light. How do you know? Let's take a look at verse 5. Verse 5 says, well, Jesus says, John says that Jesus loved these brothers and sisters. He loved Martha, his sisters Mary, and Lazarus. And what's verse 6 says? So, after he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 more days. Can you see that? Instead of saying that he loved them so much, he heard the news, he quickly go. No, he loved them so much, therefore, or so that when he heard this, he stayed 2 more days. Can you see that? He loved them so much that he would delay and let Lazarus die, so that God's great plan of salvation will be made known to these siblings. Can you see that? It is so important and so crucial. So there's one thing that we need to think about when tragedies strike us. Even when death knocks at our door, we need to have a change of attitude. We need to have a change of mindset. And I put that the application is when we see tragedy, we need to see it from God's viewpoint. We need to see tragedy from God's viewpoint. God allows this for a greater purpose. He is going to redeem His people. And what do I mean by that? I put there that He is going to do a saving work among people. And He's continuously saving His people. And He does all this out of love. Can you see? He does this out of love for people. few years ago, in fact many years ago, the director of Sri Lanka Youth for Christ came, Ajay Fernando. He came to Singapore and he told us a story that happens back at home in Sri Lanka. It was at this village, and majority of them were Hindus. And this particular family became Christian. And they were badly treated, ostracized, and even persecuted. And within this family, there was a boy, 5 or 6 years old at the time. And he fell sick. And he was so sick, and they can't find any proper medication for him. At the point, the church was worried, the church was praying for him, the family were praying for him, praying that God would heal him. And the villagers, what was their viewpoint to this? They were pointing to the family and saying, see, because they changed their faith. They betrayed the faith of Hinduism. And now the Hindu gods are punishing him. And that's what they were saying. So the church will pray to God, please heal him, so that your name will be glorified, so that this family will be vindicated. 2 weeks later, the boy died. And the church was very sad, the family were grieving. So in their wake and funeral, they were all grieving, but at the same time, it was not a hopeless sadness. It was a grief that actually comes with hope and a sense of anticipation that they will see the boy again. So the villagers were very curious. They were expecting that this family would be grieving to the point of hopelessness because they lost the boy. So the villagers actually attend the wake and the funeral. And Ajay Fernando told us that after the wake and the funeral, a few more families, in fact he was saying a lot more families actually came to know Jesus. Well, bad things will happen. When death knocks at our door, you must know it's God's loving, saving work for people, and God's continuous saving work in the lives of His believer because He loves us. But 2 days later, verse 8 told us that Jesus had decided to go to Judea, to Bethany, where Mary and Martha were. And the disciples were worried, in fact they were afraid. Why? Because there was a death threat for them. People wanted to stone Him. And disciples were worried because they were like, if you have to stone the Master, these are the disciples, probably they'll get stoned too. So probably they're afraid of death. So what was Jesus' answer to them? Jesus told them in verse 15, told them in verse 9, that death threat, these threats, and even death itself doesn't have the last say. Death itself doesn't have the last say. He said, those who walk in the light will not stumble, verse 9. But those religious leaders who were persecuting them, persecuting Jesus, wanting him to die, well, these people seems to be in a winning team, but ultimately they will lose. Jesus says, but those people who walk in the night, they will ultimately stumble. Verse 10 says that they don't have the light in them. Death threats, and even death itself doesn't have the last say. And Jesus finally explained to his disciple that, yeah, Lazarus is dead. So he restated here the purpose of this tragedy. He said, it's so that you will believe, so that you, it's for your faith, for your belief that this thing will happen. Verse 15 says. So we read again, Jesus says that tragedy happens even when death knocks at our door. God is saving people. And God is saving us. Continuous saving work in the lives of the disciple out of His love. Verse 17 to 27, a word for those who are grieving. So Jesus came to the town, came to this village in Judea. It was a few days travel, probably 2 days travel, down to Judea, to the village of Bethany. And the atmosphere in the village, you can imagine, over there, people were all very solemn, the atmosphere was very heavy, people were grieving. And because tragedy has happened to a family that they all know, it's an unexpected death. Lazarus at the time probably were very young, and the people at the time, when they see a young person die, young as in like 20 or 30 years old, a young person die, they would deem it as a premature death, an unexpected death. And the whole atmosphere is very heavy. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus were very close siblings, very close. And their parents were never mentioned in any of the 4 Gospels before. They probably grew up without their parents. Probably parents died early or something like that. But whatever it is, they were growing up together and they were very closely knitted together as siblings. And now their brother died. People who knew them, even from Jerusalem, will come over to comfort them. And verse 20, when Martha heard that Jesus was here, she immediately got up and she went to talk to Jesus. She is the kind of person who needs to clarify things. This is the kind of character that she is. Anything that is unclear, she will speak up and she will want to clarify. And there she coming to Jesus, and she's asking Jesus, why were you late? She's almost saying that. Why were you late? Why did you delay in coming? If you were here, my brother would not have died. Verse 21. In verse 22, she says something like, I believe that whatever you say, not even right now, God will listen to you. Well, what does she mean? We are not too clear, but she definitely doesn't mean that she's asking Jesus to raise Lazarus from the dead. That's definitely not in her mind. How do you know? Verse 24 tell you, when Jesus says, Lazarus will rise, you say, yeah, I know lah, the last day he will rise. So she doesn't have a concept that Jesus will raise him from the dead. Or verse 39, when Jesus says, remove the stone, she was telling Jesus, now there's a stench, now there's the order, because he's dead for 4 days. So she doesn't have in mind that to ask Jesus to raise Lazarus from the dead physically. So what is she referring to when she said that? Possibly, she's not making a request, but possibly she's just making a statement of faith. She still believes that Jesus is from God, but nevertheless she needs to clarify things. Why were you late? Why do you decide to come now, only now? And why do you allow things like this to happen? She was thinking about this. And what was Jesus' answer to her? What was Jesus' response? Jesus says, well, Lazarus will rise. You see, he says, Lazarus will rise. And Martha immediately responds. You see, she was a very quick person. When Jesus says, Lazarus will rise, she will quickly bring up whatever knowledge that she has and say, I know. Lazarus will rise on the last day, on the day of resurrection. Well, what do you say of Martha? She has good knowledge, isn't it? She has good theology of the final resurrection. She has good knowledge of doctrines of the last day, right? But it's not good enough. It's not good enough. At least it's not good enough for Jesus. She having good theology, so-called, good doctrine, so-called, is not good enough for Jesus. Why? I put here, mere good theology is at best positive thinking. At its worst, is a dead theory. Mere good theology is at best a positive thinking. So a lot of people like to think about death, because we don't like to talk about it, but we like to think about death in a very positive way. Well, we see many times when we talk about death, how do people describe death? Well, we will all go to heaven. Right? That's what people say. And they have a good afterlife feeling. This is a positive thinking. Or people even talk about people dying. What do they say? Oh, they will become angels. Or sometimes they write on the tombstone, well, we will meet again. It's a very nice, positive thinking, but at best, they are positive thinking. And some people even think that, oh, when they are of old age, they die, they have a Christian funeral, wow, it's a passage to heaven. It's a very nice thinking about death and life after death. But this is at best a positive thinking, but at its worst, it's a dead theory. How do you know people who go through this, who die, pass through a passage of death, even have a good Christian funeral, are heading to heaven? How do you know? It could be a dead theory. They could be heading to hell. Right? Martha says, he will rise on the last days. Correct, it is correct. But didn't Jesus say in John 5:29 that there will be two resurrections, two types of resurrection, one rising to life and the other one rising to judgment. John 5:29. She is right, but she's partially right. There will be resurrection, but resurrection to life or to judgment. There will be. Then we may ask, what is needed if good doctrine and good understanding is not good enough? What is more important than this? If a good Christian like positive thinking could be a dangerous dead theory, then how? We may be asking. Well, the passage has the answer. The answer is in the passage. Verse 25 and 26, Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. When Martha says, He will rise on the last day, Jesus corrected her straight away and says, I am the resurrection and the life. What makes the difference is, I am the great I am, Jesus Himself. You see, ultimate victory over death in resurrection is not merely a nice concept. Ultimate victory in life after death is not a nice theology. And I put here, the ultimate victory over death is in a person, Jesus. In a person, Jesus. The great I am. In a person, Jesus Himself. It's in this person, Jesus, who died on our behalf. In this person who took the penalty of sin for us. Because death is a penalty of sin. It's something that's unavoidable for us. Death is what sinners like you and me deserve. Eternal separation from God and eternal damnation. Death is a consequence of our rebellion against this loving Creator. And it's in this Jesus, the great I am, who died on the cross for our sin. And He rose again. And only in Him we can have victory over death and talk about a new life. Life after death, after that. So we may ask, then how can I have this victory? Well, Jesus said it too in the verse. He says, He who believes in me, even though he may die physically, he will live. Death doesn't have the last say. These are the words of comfort for those who are grieving for the loss of a loved one who believe in Jesus. But Jesus says some more. He says, He who believes in me and still alive need not be afraid of death. Because this death, physical death, doesn't have a last say. He will live. He will live spiritually. He will be with God. These are words of comfort for those who are still alive. So I put here as application, we must remember these words of comfort. Remember these words of comfort for those people who believe in the Lord Jesus, and they pass on. Physical death doesn't have the final say. For those of us who have already put our faith in our Lord Jesus, believers who are still living, we need not fear physical death. It's a word of comfort for the living and for those who have lost people who are passed on. And the challenge that Jesus gave to gave to Martha is this: do you believe? Do you believe? He asked Martha. And when John recorded this, it is as if John is confronting his readers. And now that we are reading through this passage, it's as if John is speaking to us. The word of God is speaking to us and confronting us. He says, do you believe? Do you believe? Jesus asked Martha, have you personally put your trust in the Lord Jesus? It's a great idea. Do you believe that He died and rose again 2,000 years ago, having the final victory over sin and death? Do you believe? Don't stay merely at every fairy idea of death. Death is a good ending, it's a dignified way to end life. No, don't stay at kind of airy fairy theory of death. For example, when people die, you always say, they will go to a better place. How do you know they will go to a better place? This is a false words of comfort. Or when people die, we stay in this nice concept of life after death. They have an eternal rest. How do you know they have eternal rest? You can put that on a gravestone, but they may not experience that in the first place. These are empty words of comfort. If your sin and my sin, this problem of sin is not resolved, then the penalty of sin, which is death, will always be hanging over our head. Such positive thinking, and even positive thinking about life after death, will not save any one of us. Not at all. Jesus says, I am the resurrection and the life. Do you believe? he asked Martha, do you believe? And verse 27 tells us, Martha believed. She believed that Jesus is the Christ. And he has a final victory over life, death, and sin. She believed that Jesus is the Son of God. He's God himself who came from heaven to save us sinners, to rescue us sinners who cannot rescue ourselves. And this is a good news because this same invitation to Martha is given to all of us. Do you believe? And you and me can believe. It's a good news to us. Verse 28 to 37, there's no word for those grieving. Because grief was still in the air. Martha was encouraged, and Martha went back to the house and looked for Mary, and she quickly called Mary to meet Jesus. Mary probably a very different personality from Martha. Mary was probably a quieter person and not so forthcoming like Martha. So when Mary heard about that, she came to meet Jesus. And when she met Jesus, all she could do, she was broke down straight away. Verse 32, she fell at Jesus' feet and she was grieving. She was not just grieving, she was grieving hard. She was probably even confused. Why didn't Jesus come and stop this tragedy? All she could say is, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And she cried. And she can't say any more things. And at this point, Jesus did not offer any words of comfort. But Jesus offered the best comfort. Jesus wept along with her. Verse 33. He says that Jesus was deeply moved in the spirit. And I put here, Jesus empathized with our grief and feels our pain. Jesus empathized with our grief, please spell with an F, and feels our pain. It's a slight grammatical error. In fact, the scripture tells us Jesus is a God who is not far away from us. Isaiah 53 tells us that he is a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief. And sometimes the best consolation that we can give to people who are grieving is just be there and to grieve along with them. And that's what Jesus did. Verse 35, Jesus wept. Jesus wept. But I put here, Jesus' grief was even deeper. You see, Jesus' grief was even deeper than that. Why do I say that? Take a look at verse 33 again. Verse 33 says he was deeply moved in his spirit and he was greatly troubled. He was deeply moved in his spirit. He was grieving inside. He feels a pain. But the second phrase, he was greatly troubled. This phrase is also found in Mark chapter 14 verse 5. In original word, it really means indignation, angry. He was deeply troubled. He was angry also. So you may ask, well, why was Jesus angry? Who was he angry at? Or what was he angry at? But Jesus was not angry at anyone. He was not angry at anyone. He was definitely not angry at God. Then what was he angry at? He was angry at sin. How sin has caused so much pain in God's creation. He was angry at sin and see how sin has caused separation between loved ones. Therefore, his grief was deeper. He was angry at sin because sin has ultimately caused a separation between man, sinful man, and a holy God. Therefore, his grief was even deeper. He sees death from the loving God's perspective. This year, this was my second time preaching from this passage. In May this year, I think I've shared before, a friend of mine from another church passed away. She was only 39. A very sincere, fervent Christian, and she served full-time in the church and in the school as well. She contracted breast cancer 2 years ago, and end of last year, it relapsed, and the cancerous cells spread to the spine and went up to the brain, and she died. She left 2 young kids, 2 young daughters behind, one 8 years old, and one 10 years old, and her husband. The husband was sharing with me at the deathbed. He says the 2 daughters were angry. They were very angry at God. I'm thinking, why didn't God reverse the situation? Why? They were as if saying what Mary is saying, telling Jesus, if you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. They were as if telling Jesus, if you do something, if you heal my mother, she would not have left us. They were angry, and they had to go through some counseling session with the lady pastors in the church. And in their anger, there were a lot of crying in those counseling sessions. They were almost saying that, Lord, did you even care? Why didn't you intervene? Do you know how I feel? How we feel? What would God say? What would God say to them? I think God would say this. Being a God who sympathizes with our grief and feels our pain. I think God would say this. God would say, I know. And I care. And I feel your grief. I'm even deeper in the grief because I'm even angry at how sin destroyed my creation. I know how you feel. God will say, because I saw my son, my only son, being humiliated, being scourged, being nailed and left to die on the cross. It's not for his own sin, because he has none, but for your sin. I totally understand. He's a God who sympathizes with our grief and he feels our pain. And it pains him even deeper. Verse 38 to 57, the words that comes. So Jesus went to the tomb site and he instructed that the stone, probably a large stone, to be rolled away. And he prayed out loud. For what purpose? So that he said that, so that the people around, for these people around, so that they may believe. They may believe. So Lazarus' death was to demonstrate God's glory in saving sinners from the consequence of sin, which is death. And God does it through his Son, Jesus. And Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, so that people may believe. How did Jesus raise Lazarus? Verse 43. He just says, Lazarus, come out. This is the only words that count. These are the only words that count, the words of Jesus. These are the same words from Jesus that created the universe. These are the same words that healed the crippled, healed the blind. These are the same words that raised the dead. The only word that counts are the words of Jesus and the claims about himself. And verse 45 tells us that there are some people who believe the Jews were there, they believe. What then is true faith? So I define here. True faith is to trust in the words of Jesus, is to trust in what he claims about himself, that he is the resurrection and the life. Do you believe his words? And in this account, he demonstrated the trustworthiness of his word by raising Lazarus from the dead. Do you believe in his claim? And many Jews believe. But yet at the same time, the next verse immediately tells us, verse 46, there are many Jews who did not believe too. What is disbelief? What is faithlessness? Maybe because there are lack of evidence. Is it true? Well, it's not true. Verse 37, take a look at it. Some Jews were saying, these Jews who complained about Jesus actually knew that he healed the blind man. Verse 37. Right? And now, 46, these Jews saw that he raised Lazarus from the dead. And what did they do? They chose not to believe. And in fact, they went away to report this to the religious leader to get Jesus into trouble. And now, verse 47 to 57, the religious leader who heard the report of these signs, miraculous signs that Jesus did, they chose to kill him, not to believe in him. So I put here, faithlessness is not due to the lack of evidence, because the evidence was right before their eyes. A lot of people say, if I see signs, I'll believe. It's not true. These people saw these signs and they did not believe. And I put there, faithlessness is not due to low intelligence too. It's not because the IQs were low. They were common Jews there, but they were also very highly educated Jews. The religious, the Pharisees, the chief priests. So what is the cause of what is the real definition of faithlessness? So I put here, faithlessness is choosing not to believe Jesus' words, despite the evidence. Martha believed without seeing. Martha said, I believe without, even before Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. She believed the words of Jesus. This is true faith. But faithlessness is really choosing not to believe in Jesus' word, despite your belief. You may ask, why didn't they believe? These Jews were standing there, they saw Lazarus walk out from the tomb. Why didn't they believe? Well, the answer, verse 48. The religious leader will say, you see, so many people are believing in him. The Romans will come and will take our place. What will they actually say? They will say this. This Jesus is making us lose control. I put here, the real reason behind this belief is because Jesus is a threat to our control. You see, many people are going after him. We are losing control. The Romans will come and take our place. We will lose our control. Jesus is a threat to our sovereignty. This belief and faithlessness is not lack of evidence, not lack of intelligence. People choose not to believe because Jesus is a threat to our own lordship in life. If he really is the Son of God, is God himself, it means I have to hand over the lordship of my life to him. He's a threat. He's a threat to our sovereignty. If he's really the King of Kings, it means what's going to happen to my own kingship in my own life? If he is a threat to our control, if he's really the Savior, he is really the resurrection and the life, it means I cannot be in control. I cannot determine how I can save myself. The question comes back to all of us is, do you believe? Do you believe that he is the real king? Not you. If you are the king, you're the king that will finally still meet the grave and die and brought and be judged. Do you believe that he's a better Lord of your life? If you rule over your life, you will die in your sin and I will die in my sin. Do you believe that he's a better Lord of our life? Do you really believe that? And do you believe that he's the only Savior who can save us? Because we cannot save ourselves from sin. So when death knocks at our door, either in the lives of the loved ones that we have, or we ourselves are facing it, unless we believe in this one, the one who says, I am the resurrection and the life. Unless you know him who has ultimate victory over sin and the consequence of sin, which is death, you cannot grieve well. You can never grieve well. But if you know him personally, if you know this Jesus personally, you know this I am, you can grieve. And you can grieve well. Let's pray. Thank you for revealing yourself to us, who are trapped in sin and the consequence of sin. But you, O Lord, you reveal yourself that you are the resurrection, and the life. And you love us so much that you even went to the cross for us. And you rose again victoriously so that you can give us new life. Thank you. For people in this room who have not come to know you yet, we pray that you will meet you personally. You come to know you personally. For the rest of us believers, we pray that God, we will hang on to this truth about you so that we may face death, but we will grieve and we will grieve well. Give thanks to you and pray in Jesus' name.